Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today I want to talk a little bit about some quotes that have come from Doctor Who magazine contributor Tom Spilsbury with regard to the future of Doctor Who. These have been making the rounds for a few days, but obviously I was away for a while, and I'm finally back, and I want to talk about these quotes and kind of give you my thoughts on it. So sit back, relax, and subscribe if you're new. That would be greatly appreciated. We are trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, and we're on 28,900. We're almost at 29,000, so any support would be greatly appreciated. But let's dive right in. Now, I'm going to be taking the write-up on this from IGN, but to be honest, this has been doing the rounds for a few days. Doctor Who Insider says nothing is commissioned and nothing is guaranteed as the show remains in limbo month after finale airs. I don't get the sense of much optimism for anything very soon. Doctor Who could remain off air for the rest of the decade, a notable insider has suggested, as concerns grow over the long-running show's immediate future. That's according to Tom Spilsbury, a journalist and writer with close ties to the show's production, who previously served as editor of the officially licensed Doctor Who magazine for more than a decade. He also, as I know him, is the one who always collates the ratings for Doctor Who magazine. So if ever you look at the ratings for Doctor Who series, he's always the one doing the write-ups for those in Doctor Who magazine. Writing on fan forum Gallifrey-based Spilsbury said that while he expected Doctor Who to return at some point, fans should adjust their expectations for its immediate future, as the wait for official news on the series' Disney co-funding deal renewal drags on. He said, quote, "I suspect the show will indeed come back at some point, but as of right now, nothing is commissioned and nothing is guaranteed," Spilsbury wrote. "Those are the facts. Time will tell, of course, but I don't get the sense of much optimism for anything very soon from anyone I've spoken to." And then, it basically just goes on to talk about Spilsbury's credentials, which we've already kind of gone over. "Everything is moving much more slowly in television at the moment," Spilsbury wrote. "On the assumption that Disney doesn't renew before its option officially expires, that will be the point where the BBC can start to shop the show around. And that process could take a fair bit of time. It may require more than one partner just to raise the money needed. Potential partners who may have some very specific requirements or stipulations. They may need to go back to people who they turned down last time. Have you noticed how more productions have needed multiple backers just to make them viable these days? Yes, the BBC could go for an ultra-cheap in-house version of the show, but I really don't think that's as viable an option as it used to be. The license fee simply hasn't kept up with inflation over the past few years." Spilsbury caveated his comments, saying that they were simply his perspective, albeit one based on his production knowledge and real-life conversations with people who do actually know a thing or two about television. "I'm not saying that things will definitely turn out this way," he continued. "I just think people may need to adjust their expectations about how long this will take. As I've said, Doctor Who might not be officially cancelled, but for now, the absence of commission essentially amounts to the same thing. I'm sure the commission will come at some point, but the longer it takes, the more likely it will be that the show will return as a completely reimagined relaunch, and maybe that would be a good thing." While not a member of the show's current production, Spilsbury's closeness to the brand gives his word weight amongst Doctor Who fans who are taking his sense of the series' future seriously. And a key element here, reading between the lines, seems to be the suggestion that the longer it takes for Doctor Who to return, the more likely it will be that it will be a fresh team behind it. So this is the interesting thing. Obviously, the reason I'm covering this article and the reason why these comments have kind of gained traction in Doctor Who fandom spaces is that this is from a known individual with ties to Doctor Who and Doctor Who production. And what he's saying does seem to align with the things that I personally have heard from people, with tangential ties to the production. Obviously, not going to name names or anything, but the sense that I've been given is that no one knows what's going on with the show at the moment, and it is effectively in limbo until this Disney deal gets, officially decided on. And as Tom Spilsbury points out, even when that deal is decided, whether it's going to be renewed or not, if it's not renewed at Disney, which isn't looking particularly likely, it's going to take them time to find someone new, get a new contract ironed out, cast new people, get all the production crew ready and geared up to do a new series. That stuff just doesn't happen overnight. So what he's effectively saying here is that basically he doesn't think the show will go away, but it's probably going to take a while before it comes back. And obviously, the longer that takes, the more likely it is that it won't be with Bad Wolf or Russell, because obviously eventually they're going to want to move on. Obviously Russell is doing his own other project. Bad Wolf obviously are going to want the studio space that they would be using for Doctor Who for other things. So, yeah. He goes on to then say, my guess, and it is just a guess, is that it will be 5 or 6 years before we see anything new, Spilsbury suggested, at which point it will be the children of 2005 who will be bringing the show back. Just as Russell predicted, as ever, time will tell. It's worth considering Spilsbury's previous comment that potential partners may have some specific requirements or stipulations, and it seems logical to suggest that as time goes on and sentiment around Doctor Who's most recent season settles, there may be a greater desire from future potential co-funding partners for any new deal to promise a fresh vision for the series. Yeah, this is the interesting thing as well. Would a new streaming partner want to continue the vision of Russell T Davies and co, which, whilst I think has been an improvement over where the show has been previously, would be lying if we said that it's been an overwhelming success that they wanted it to be. And then asked whether he believed the show's current finale, its last-minute reveal of Billie Piper following the departure of Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor via a reshoot ending, had created a rod for the show's own back. Whenever it does return, Spilsbury agreed. Though suggested the longer wait, the easier it would be to ignore. Yes, he wrote, but I think it will eventually become academic. I suspect it will be quite a while before new episodes are commissioned and announced, by which point enough time will have passed that everyone will be expecting a clean slate anyway. I'm not sure whether I quite agree with that. I get his point that obviously if the show does go on ice for a few years, then people will be expecting a new start. However, I don't feel like this is comparable to 1989. In 1989, you just have the Doctor and Ace walking off, leading to a very ambiguous open ending, where you can just continue the show from any point onwards after that, which they did. With Billie Piper's return specifically, you can't do that and then not follow up on it or acknowledge it ever. Like, that would just be bizarre, and I think that it would be one of those things that would be suicide for them to do, you know, bring back Billie Piper, cause this whole media storm, and then just never acknowledge it. I think that would just be a further dent to the audience's kind of trust in Doctor Who. That might be a weird phrase to say, but I guess what I'm saying is, if it's yet another example of something coming out and not being followed up on, that's already starting any potential new run of Doctor Who on bad footing, because it means that, oh, well, if this isn't going to get followed up on, what's to say that the next thing that you cover in Doctor Who isn't going to get followed up on either? So I don't know whether I necessarily agree that it'll eventually just fade into the background and everyone will expect a new start anyway. I think if that was the kind of assumption that they were going into the finale with, that the show might be on pause for a while and presumably a new start would be coming, that they shouldn't have put the Billie Piper scene in there. I firmly do believe that. The longer time has gone on, the more I believe that that was a mistake. That was a bad call, and the fact that, you know, we're a month on and we haven't heard anything about it at all, to me is indicative that, yeah, you know, I don't think it was the right call. I appreciate that I have been covering a lot of more, I guess, depressing news topics, but frankly there hasn't been much positive to say about Doctor Who in terms of the news cycle for a hot minute there, and obviously I sympathise with people who say that we don't actually have any evidence of, you know, what the show's future is. Everything could turn out fine. And, like, look, I hope it does. I hope that, you know, by the end of this year, we hear about a new series being brought into production with a new Doctor or whatever, and everything carries on, maybe with a new streaming service. That's what I want to happen. But I have to be realistic, and we're hearing people now, not just random Tom, Dick or Harrys, but people who have connections to the show, connections to the BBC, saying, look, be prepared for, you know, potentially a 5 to 6 year break. And I think we should take that seriously. I don't think that we should just go, I'm sure the show will be fine, it always is. When I think things are being blown out of proportion, I'll be straight with you guys and say, guys, this is being blown out of proportion. But I would also say when I don't think things are in a great position, and I don't think anyone with a straight face can really say that Doctor Who is in a great position at the moment. And I think the fact that you've got all these people coming out in, you know, interviews and on forums saying all of this stuff, it does paint a picture. So my thoughts on this overall are obviously the indication seems to be that it's probably not going to be back for at least 5 to 6 years, according to Tom Spilsbury, and if and when it is, it's possible that it would be with a completely fresh team, which maybe would be for the best. I think it's interesting what he said as well, basically saying, while the show hasn't been cancelled, the fact that it's basically, kind of in limbo ostensibly means the same thing, which it kind of does. Doctor Who was never officially cancelled in '89. It was kind of just left on pause for an extended period of time, which effectively means the exact same thing. It's why I was comfortable saying that Doctor Who was on hiatus a few weeks ago, because with nothing in production and with nothing, in the pipeline, that is ostensibly what it is. Like, Doctor Who is essentially on hiatus until further notice. That just is kind of the reality of it, and I don't want that to be the case, and I sympathise with people who are like, oh, you're just dooming, things will work out fine. But I've got to be honest with myself and with you guys and say that I don't think things are in a great position, and I do hope something gets worked out. Obviously, I spoke about yesterday the fact that obviously the HBO deal expires in July for the back catalogue, and obviously War Between comes out later this year, and presumably we will hear something this year about, any potential future plans. But I guess what I'm saying is, when people are like, oh yeah, don't worry, Doctor Who will just be back next year, I'm like, I don't know, we don't know that yet, I think being overly optimistic with no evidence is, as silly as being overly pessimistic. I think you've got to be realistic given what we actually know, and what we actually know is nothing's in production. Russell's left his column on Doctor Who magazine, we don't have a lead actor officially in the role yet, and no statement has been made on the show's future, and with all of that, I think it's hard to say that things are going to just carry on as normal. But whatever your thoughts are, drop them down in the comments below. I'd be interested to hear what they are. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.